Hello and welcome. I am Cyril Stober. Nigeria is facing some tough times, from economic challenges, the ravages of the global pandemic, serious security issues, and as if those are not enough, labor unrest, strikes, and threats of strikes. All of these with unemployment staring millions in the face. My guest today is a member of the Federal Cabinet, a senior advocate of Nigeria, a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitration of the United Kingdom, Minister of State, Labour and Employment, Mr. Festus Keyamo. Minister, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Cyril.
All right. These are tough times for the country, aren't they?
They are, I must admit.
How does that make you feel as a member of the Federal Executive Council, a member of the cabinet of this administration?
Well, it makes us feel very challenged. Not only me, but every member of the Federal Executive Council led by the President himself. There's no week in cabinet that these issues do not come to the front burner. And so every single member of the Federal Executive Council of the federal government, every single member is very, very concerned about the state of affairs of this country. And I want to assure everyone, despite all that you hear, that the President and Commander-in-Chief is very much concerned about the state of affairs of the country, and he has it right at the top of his head at every time when we hold our weekly meeting. So I can assure you that we are doing everything within our resources and intellectual capacities to tackle these problems.
All right, let's look at some of them with particular reference to those that are happening within your purview. I'm talking about industrial relations. For some time now, it's been on and on and on. Strikes, as we said earlier, strikes today, threat of strikes tomorrow. And the issues all revolve around basically the same things. Now, there are three, for instance, that are critical now. Strike by doctors, strike by judicial, service workers, and of course, in the academia, university teachers. Now, these have combined to cause a lot of disruptions in the nation. So where are we with these actions?
Well, let me talk about the judicial workers strike first, the Judicial. That, of course, is not within the purview of the federal government alone. Because you can see that what the judicial workers are asking for, there's just one demand. They are seeking to enforce the autonomy of the state judiciaries. And you will attest to it that the President and Commander-in-Chief, President Muhammadu Buhari, last year, about June last year, did himself, make moves to ensure that Section 121, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution is fully implemented and obeyed by the state governors. So the President signed what we call the Executive Order 10. The Executive Order 10 seeks to enforce the autonomy of state judiciaries. And so that order says that even the Accountant General of the Federation can pay directly funds that are accruable to the state judiciaries, and of course the state legislatures too can pay directly to them. So on the part of the federal government, on the part of the President, we have done all we can do in respect of the Judicial strike, in respect of the judicial workers and the state judiciaries. Now what is happening is that the state governors are resisting this order. The state governors say they are not going to obey the Constitution. The state governors have even gone ahead, 36 of them, across party lines, to even go to court. They took the President to court to say, no, they are not going to implement that particular order. So the judicial workers' strike is not within the hands of the federal government. Now, what we have done as a Ministry of Labor, because all industrial arrest ends in our ministry, we have as conciliators, we are not, when people see the strikes going on and all that, they think everything is about the Ministry of Labor. No, we are not involved, one-on-one with anybody with these industrial actions. We are the people, we are the conciliators that come in. The two ministers are the conciliators that will come in to bring the warring parties to the table to try to settle the matter. So for the Judicial strike, let me say that first of all, we have, the president set up a committee at that time to implement the order, headed by, I think, Ita Enang. That committee has met with the governors. They have met with all the relevant stakeholders. They are to report back to us, and a date will soon be fixed. There was some misunderstanding, first of all, with the new unions and us, but we are going to fix a date for the Judicial strike. For the
just before you go to the others, I'd like to take a little more time on the Judicial strike. Yes, the federal government has played its part, as you say.
Absolutely.
All right, and then the states are there. But Nigerians ask a fundamental question. The business of administration is when all parts of it work together. The president is the president of Nigeria. His party, the APC, is the governing party. There are APC governors in the states. Are they not on the same page with the president?
Well, I think this has to do with more with self-preservation by the governors. So it is beyond party politics now. And perhaps Nigerians will understand that at times the interest of some of these people cut across party lines. It's about self-preservation. The governors, the truth of the matter, and I think, let me just say it the way it should be said, is that the governors, they want to put the judiciaries within their grip in their different states.
All right.
They don't want financial autonomy because they want to manipulate the judiciary. And one of the hallmarks of true democracy is the independence of the judiciaries.
All right. Then Nigerians also ask, on the other hand, among the governors are members of the bar.
Absolutely.
Senior members of the bar, for that matter. And among the governors are those who are governors today by virtue of decisions of the judiciary. So why would they not want to strengthen this institution that is today responsible for where they are?
You've got to ask a good question, and that should be directed at those governors. They should know that they should be able to promote the interests of the judiciary even now that they're on the other side. They should know that. So I think it's a matter of, well, since we're on this side now, I'm wearing a separate cap, I'm wearing a different cap. Let me preserve the seat on which I'm sitting. Right. So it's just a matter of the fact that many of them, they don't want, they want to be all powerful.
Okay.
They want to control both the judiciary and the legislatures in their different states.
All right.
And if that happens at the national level, at the federal level, they are going to cry blue mother.
All right. As the lawyers say, they're learned colleagues. You're a senior lawyer, so why would lawyers not want independence?
For me, what I would suggest is that the bar still has its own disciplinary procedures. Whether you are a governor or you're no governor, the bar has its own disciplinary procedures. They should be able to call these governors to order within their primary profession, which is the legal profession. Because if you're in public office and you are not even, you are doing anything to destroy the Constitution or not to uphold law and order, you can be called to question. Because one of the ethics of the profession is that you should be able to uphold the tenets of the Constitution.
All right.
So if they are not doing anything in that regard, I think they should also be disciplined by their primary, profession.
All right.
So I think that is also a way to go.
Okay, let's go to the other strike.
I think for ASU, you see the call of their strike, but we are still talking. ASU had about 8 demands on the table. The doctors had about 6 demands on the table. The federal government have met about 80-90% of these demands. ASU had about the 30 billion revitalization fund. That, of course, is ongoing. We almost concluded that. ASU had the issue of the end academic allowance. They had the issue of the UTAS and the IPPIS, you know that. They had about the visitation panel to different universities. They had the state universities issue and all of that. And they also had the other issues, surrounding this 170 billion they were asking for.
Right.
So for the total revamping of the university system. That, of course, we told them that it's not possible to meet at this time. So they called up, there was a memorandum of action signed in December December 22nd, I saw 2020. That was when they called up their strike.
Right.
So the federal government has a memorandum of action with ASU. The federal government has kept its word to about 80% of these agreements. We are billed to meet again with ASU this May, sometime before the end of May, to review what has been done so far. So the federal government has done its best. But let me tell you something. People say that we are always in the habit, or we are wont to always blame the past. Now, this is not a blame of the past, just to state the fact the way they are. In many cases, all of these agreements that they are striking over and all that, they are not agreements that we signed. They are not the agreement, but government is a continuum. I do agree. Government is a continuum. But I just want to make it clear that this government did not sign this agreement with these workers. There were agreements, in many cases, they signed them in a rush to make them call off their strike. They signed them in bad faith. Agreements that they knew they could not meet, that they could not, meet up with, but they signed these agreements. And they put all kinds of pressure on successive regimes. What we have not done is to pressure ourselves to sign this kind of financial agreements with this union. We are trying to resolve all of these issues in the past. For instance, they signed agreements as to payment of some kind of, bogus amounts that they knew that the economy could not support. And so where are we going to, most of this strike, let me tell you that 90% of these issues surrounding all of this strike has to do with money. The issues, they have to do with money. So if we were to be buoyant at this point in time, some of these industrial actions would not be taking place. So for the ASU issue, we are meeting in May again. We've met 80% of their demands. There's a memorandum of action in place, and we are following up on this memorandum. I just listed some of the issues at stake. For the doctors, they had about 6 demands on the table. And when we met, we have, we discussed. The federal government has met some of these demands. For example, the issue of insurance. The federal government paid about 9 billion naira for the insurance of the work of the doctors, especially those affected, by COVID-19. The federal government paid 9 billion. The last time they were complaining that names were not attached. Those who died as a result of COVID-19, they have not been collated. Those who are covered by this insurance, their names were not forwarded. We said, okay, forward the names, go back, make a list of them, and forward to the insurance company. They had the issue of the house officers' allowance, residency allowance, and all of that. So we are discussing with the doctors. They called off their strike. We are meeting again in 4 weeks, beginning from the 2nd or 3rd of March. 4 weeks from then, we are going to meet again to also now review where we are. So the point I want to make in all of this is that we are doing our very best as conciliators in the Ministry of Labor, as conciliators, to ensure that we bring everybody to the table. Let's keep talking. But one point I want to make to the unions, and I must make this point before we move on to the next point, is that I want to appeal to them that the purpose of strike is to ignite a process of discussion. The moment they give a notice of strike, once we have gone ahead to apprehend the strike, apprehension of strike means you have called them to say, look, I've seen your notice, I have fixed a meeting, both sides should come to the table, let us start talking. The moment we have apprehended this strike, there's no point for them to go ahead and call the strike.
Well,
because that is what it is.
Sometimes the union say they issue notice, and there's no response
when they issue a notice,
the 11th hour.
When they issue a notice for 2 weeks, for example, before the 2 weeks, we normally apprehend the strike. We apprehend it. We are not that docile. We now send notice out that, look, we have received a notice. And in many cases, to the employers of these workers, we are conciliators. For example, to the Ministry of Education, we invite Ministry of Education, we invite Ministry of Health when it comes to the workers. These are the employers of these workers, not us. So we invite them to the table to say, come, let us talk. Let us begin to... Once that happens, we have apprehended the strike. We have apprehended it. At that point, they should be patient enough to let the process take place before they call out their workers.
Right. Well, in relation to that, citizens ask the question and say, how about a more proactive step? It's a known trend that once you begin to deal with one segment of a union, by the time you reach an agreement, other segments of other unions within that same profession will rise. We've seen it happen with health workers. An agreement is reached with doctors. And the next minute, other unions in the health sector,
ASU too.
the same
ASU.
thing in education.
Academic and non-academic staff and ASU.
So
This
citizens are asking,
Yes.
when you sit down to negotiate, would it not be better to have an all-inclusive negotiation in anticipation of actions like this?
Well, you go and wake a sleeping lion, a sleeping dog. When the other unions have not given their notice of strike. In fact, our jurisdiction as conciliators, our jurisdiction is not activated until you give that notice.
All right.
So if unions that have not given a notice, but we know that they are within a particular sector, they have not given a notice, we have no jurisdiction to invite them.
But do you
Because
engage in
the jurisdiction is only
informal discussions because you know this is a trend
Well,
and it's likely to happen?
No, the point really is that is why we're always careful to rush into agreements with these unions. Because people don't know that once you reach some kind of bogus agreement with any kind of sector of the economy, it sets off a chain reaction. So we are always very careful about that. That is why this particular government has not gone ahead to make unnecessary commitments to even unions, no matter the pressure. Because we know that we will be out of here someday. We don't want to give an unnecessary burden to the next government coming in. So we have been very careful about that. What we have inherited are these bogus agreements signed in the past by past governments. And we're trying to resolve that. And in fact, in many cases, we have told the unions, by this time these agreements were reached, Nigeria was very bogus and they still did not pay you at that time. At the point we're earning oil 140 naira per barrel, $1 per barrel, $140 per barrel. That was when these agreements were reached. But then they still did not pay them. So where are we going to find the money now to pay them? We have so many competing, interests. And then guess what? Don't forget that these things also, were on the rise after COVID-19. COVID-19 was an international malaise that affected the entire world. Go and look at every economy of the world, no matter the strongest economy of the world, they were all affected by COVID-19. So many of them went into recession. Many of them, the economies dipped. And so we have ourselves as third world countries that have only been grappling with our economies before. We are affected by the general problem of COVID-19. And I'm sure we're coming to employment,
Right.
unemployment.
Well,
that's what unemployment went up to.
Yeah, it takes us to that.
Unemployment
because,
went up to.
Unemployment
So
is still rising.
we are trying to also let these unions know that first of all, before they are unionists, they are Nigerians. Government is not about the person sitting in the Aso Rock. Government is all of us. Government. So in many cases, we have called the accountant general. In all of these negotiations, we say open the books. Government's business is no longer voodoo. I hope you know that. There's the Freedom of Information Act there. The books are open. If you come to my ministry, I'll open the books to you when you have nothing to hide. The accountant general is always at those meetings. We say open the books. Let them see what we earned in January as a country. Let's see what they earned in February. Look at the wage packets. And don't forget that we just adjusted the minimum wage. That took us from about 1-point-something trillion naira to 3-point-something trillion naira monthly. Look at the extra wage on the parts of the federal government. Monthly, we added about 2 trillion naira to our wages. When our earnings are not increasing in any way. So we always open the books to them, say, look at it. Where will the money come from? It's not a hidden business. This is my appeal to the unions, that they should know that we are in their streets. We are in difficult times. Most of these bogus demand, like ASU was asking for 170 billion. That's what they're asking for. 170 billion for the total, revitalization of, the educational system. And we say, let me use the word haba. Where would that money come from? To give to one sector now. There's no way we can do that now when there are so many competing interests.
All right. Some of the causative factors, of course, lie in unemployment and such issues. Now, yes, COVID-19 ravaged the world and dented economies. And the Nigerian government tried its best at the time to introduce certain measures as to cushion, I don't want to use that word, but it's a common word used these days, to cushion the effects of the pandemic. At one point in time, Nigerians thought the government had something they called a very ambitious project to provide 774,000 jobs. We'd like to ask you the status of that at this time and how it's been done.
Well, temporary jobs, not permanent jobs.
Yes.
It's what they call the Special Public Works Program. We have taken off in earnest, whereby the design is that government wants to give 1,000 persons per local government a stipend of 20,000 naira monthly. That's the 60,000 naira for 3 months to carry out public works. In other words, instead of government just giving them the money as gifts to cushion the effects of pandemic, government says, well, in return, let us also have some kind of services from you. In other words, government said, look, they want to maintain some public infrastructure that otherwise they would have gone to hire different workers to come and help to maintain the infrastructure. People have always erroneously said, well, just to clear gutters. But it goes beyond that. So many different works are going on around the country. Now, I have started my tour of inspecting some of these public works that are going on. I've started my tour last week. I was in Calabar last week for that, and within the next few weeks, I'll be in different parts of the country. We have taken off, but let me explain this to you, that we agree entirely that this is not an all-cure elixir. This is not what the magic wand we are looking for. But it is the fact that before you get the big plan in place, people must still survive to get to see that big plan. So we think, the government thought and the president thought that, look, this is a model that has been adopted in different parts of the world. So people should not criticize that it's a strange model. It's a Nigerian kind of thing to just give out such monies to people. No. India used it so well to lift themselves out of poverty. That is why India today, one of the reasons India, left the bottom rung of the poverty, chain. It's something that can be done annually. And recently, they brought a memo to council where it has also been approved as an annual poverty reduction strategy. Because at the end of those 3 months, people will have some kind of small monies with them to invest in their small businesses. These are people who have small trade. Some people sell tomatoes, onion, and all that in the market. They can go back and put that back into their business. Some people do grinding business. Some people do Okada business and all kinds of businesses. So they can't use this. People don't understand. I want to explain that for people who are elites or who live in the big cities, who don't know what is going on around the country, people look for 40,000 naira loan at times. Loan, IOU of 25,000 for weeks and months they don't see. I just want Nigerians to understand that. People look for as small as that for many months. People to borrow them money. They don't see. And now the federal government provides that kind of platform. I want to explain. I heard some people say, Keyamo, will you give your child that kind of work? Will you yourself earn that kind of money? The design of the program is that it is for itinerant, unskilled workers. So when you are talking of somebody who is unskilled, we are talking of the very bottom of the economy. There's no government in history that has thought of those people in this kind of massive way. No government. I challenge everybody to tell me any program in the past. Programs in the past have targeted skilled workers. They have targeted undergraduates. They have targeted graduates. But no government has targeted the very bottom of the economy. So people should understand that society has different rungs. If you think that the money is not enough for the rung you belong to, leave people who are there at the bottom to jubilate over it. Leave them. Today, you cannot do anything in the construction industry without those itinerant workers. They are the ones who come with shovels every day to sites to say, can I do any work for daily pay? They are daily pay workers. They come, they dig, they carry concrete, they carry blocks, they carry everything, and you pay them on that day, and they go. Next day, they will go to another site. They are not permanent workers. They go to somewhere else. So those people, they are there. And people don't know that they form the very bulk of the economy at the bottom. Government is going to release, and we've started releasing, about 47 billion naira to the bottom of the economy in the next few months. You will see the impact. It's going to, lift them up at that level. So people should understand that it is a poverty reduction strategy. It is not the magic wand, I repeat, we are looking for. It is not the cure to unemployment, but it will go a long way to help people at that level to get some capital with them to go and invest in their small businesses.
All right, so temporary, 3 months at best. But again, human nature have a taste of what it is to live again. And at the end of it, where do we go? So I'm looking at investment in employment opportunities on a larger scale for the future.
Let me say this very clearly, that our focus as a government when it comes to employment is not to encourage people to wait for that magic employment letter, which is what many people think employment is all about. The magic employment letter, you are hereby employed into so and so organization, you'll be on probation for 6 months, thereafter you will be confirmed. That is about just 1 or 2% of the kind of employment that the economy can survive, with which the economy can survive. The focus of government is to skill up the population. When you skill up a people and you make them self-employed, you have created the best kind of economy around. So, in various MDAs now, you will see every yearly budget, you will see a lot of money has been devoted to skill acquisition, training, and all that. And we are doing that also in the Ministry of Labour and also under the agencies under us, especially the National Director of Employment, which I supervise. There are a lot of skill acquisition programs by which we skill up people and then we give them starter packs to go and begin their businesses. In many cases, we see the Nigerian factor. Some people will go and sell their starter packs. Some lazy ones. You train somebody in carpentry, you give him all the tools to start carpentry, he will sell them off and come back again and start begging and say he doesn't have a job. He doesn't know that he has just been empowered to go and start a job. But there are many cases where we have instances where those people have come back to give testimonies that they have started their businesses, they have employed 1 or 2 hands again to help them, and as such they are expanding, the employment market. So there are instances that we have a lot of training programs going on like that. The only problem is that the number of people that are coming out every day, are graduating institutions, whether skill acquisition to universities, to polytechnics, or even plain training. People are coming out to the job market every day. It's more than the jobs we have been creating. So we are digging deep. We are expanding the base. We are digging deep. And that is why you see government continues to concentrate a lot on, in every budget cycle, to expand the job creation opportunities. The president has said that he wants to lift 100 million people out of poverty in the next 10 years. The major tool to lift that up is to expand the frontiers of job creation. And one of the major ones is to empower them with small businesses, empower small businesses to grow and to skill them up, and which is what this government is doing.
Right. Skills acquisition, fantastic. And then the question of small businesses,
Yes.
the ones who are actually the engine of growth.
Absolutely.
But again, the citizens say there are certain parameters. As when you want to create the conducive environment and the atmosphere for these to thrive. But consistently, other factors and policies of government have affected, a stable environment. And therefore, even when these small businesses start up and you provide them with skills and empowerment, starter packs, as you said, other factors now combine to take away a lot of the gains. And this is a recurring issue.
Cyril, let's get it straight. The different levels of government are involved in job creation and to make sure these businesses survive. So people always look at the federal government. Maybe they have a government that they love to hate at the center. So everything that happens around the world, around the country, they blame it on the president. There was sometime somebody said, I think I got the story somewhere that somebody said his goat was missing or something. The guy said this Buhari said or something, Now, the small business we are talking about, do you know local governments at times, they go around and frustrate these small businesses from thriving. Because at that level, local governments are at times are in charge of small businesses, maybe markets. They're in charge of markets. So you can see the small shops that people get at the markets, acquire. And where perhaps we have gone out of our way to empower them. The local governments will go there and overtax them in such a way that they can no longer thrive. They will go there, in many cases, destroy their shops without providing alternatives for them. So how is that the business of the federal government? Everybody cannot be on the bill of the federal government. That's why we have a federal system. So please, local governments are involved in some of these things. The state governments are also involved at some level with some of these businesses and to make sure that they survive. The federal government has its own bit to play. The federal government provides the overall enabling environment. So when even the federal government at times has gone out of its way to go into state, do you know the federal government has gone out of its way to go into primary education that should not be on its bill? The federal government is not becoming like a big elephant. Everybody wants to be on the back of the federal government. So the federal government has gone out of its way in our, the first term of the president to empower small businesses. You remember all the schemes under the office of the vice president, where they provide little loans to small businesses, 20,000, as the case may be, 30,000 to small businesses. Those are businesses within the purview of the local government. But the government was so concerned not to leave it alone to the local government, but went as far as going down to support these businesses. But then, to sustain these businesses in many cases, you also need the cooperation of the local government and the state government.
All right. If we agree that these are not essentially matters drawn along political lines, we do understand, of course, that the administration has a number of platforms on which it meets with other players in the administration at different levels, and this cuts across party lines. Do these platforms provide tangible discussions and results for smooth administration? Because, there's really no point to say, well, we are federal government, we've done our bit. Whatever happens in the state, well, it's the state's business, or whatever.
No, I didn't say so.
No.
Don't misquote me.
No, I'm not saying
I want
you
to say
said
that
so.
we also need their cooperation.
Yes, I'm not saying you said so. I'm just saying those platforms that are provided for regular interactions.
Unfortunately.
Yes, how productive?
Unfortunately, federal government cannot give directives to the states.
No, it's not a matter of directives.
They may discuss it.
How productive have those platforms?
I'll give the Economic Council that the Vice President heads. The governors are there. They meet, periodically. But the point really is that some of these laws that they use to regulate these small businesses are local government edicts. They are, laws of local government. The state government laws. So you wouldn't expect the state government to say, well, at that level, we have directed you to go and do 1, 2, 3, 4.
No.
To go and change your laws. Each state has its own peculiarities and the type of laws it makes depending on its own local economy. In many cases, the party adopts a policy and they expect the governors within their policy and all that to adopt some of these policies. So, yes, they do that.
Let's explore that further.
To an extent, it happens. Well, it happened during Awolowo's time. The free education thing went down within the states down to its state governors. Okay? And so, we are also doing the same thing.
Okay, so
we're also doing the same, but you see, it is not broad enough to cover all the states. You can adopt a policy as a party itself. But then too, the party also will not provide funds to those states. The states have their own peculiarities in terms of funding. Some cannot even generate IGRO. Cannot. I know some states that cannot even generate IGRO of up to 500,000 per month.
So that would even bring us to the issue of the national minimum wage.
Yes.
And Minister, as you know, that too is beginning to generate heated arguments, and I wouldn't be surprised if this goes on and becomes a major issue. The question of if you should take out the minimum wage from an exclusive list. Now discussions are going on, and within organized labor circles, the heat is beginning to build up.
Let me give my personal opinion first of all. As a lawyer, as a senior lawyer, it is some kind of anomaly really to put a burden on a tier of government, but the government does not have the funding, does not have the constitutional responsibility to fund that burden. Do you understand me? Or to remove a burden from a tier of government that it cannot regulate, but you give it a financial burden to carry out that duty. In other words, the constant problem has always been the federal government has the exclusive powers regarding minimum wage. But then when it passes the law regarding minimum wage, it encourages the states, it expects the states to adopt that minimum wage and fund it. So in other words, the states just sit back. They have nothing to do. They wake up one morning and see that a certain amount has been imposed on them to pay. It's an anomaly, I do agree. So there must be a way we fine-tune that. That's why people have been calling for an amendment to the Constitution to ensure that we have... Now, listen. The same workers that are crying through federalism, you see where the problem comes and where, I don't use the harsh word hypocrisy, the double speak come at times. You're shouting true federalism. Go back to true federalism. That is true federalism. I hope you know that. To take it from the exclusive list and give it to them, to the states. That is what you call true federalism. Yes, but when it affects them, and they say no, they don't want true federalism. They want a unitary system in this case, because it affects them now. In other cases that don't affect them, they say they want true federalism.
I think the issue here, Minister, is that this is a minimum. We are just saying any worker within this place should earn this. That's just the minimum.
Look, I agree. I support labor to protect the rights of workers. Listen, I support them.
If State A adopts the minimum and pays 30, nothing says State B cannot pay 50.
I agree. Right. I want to agree with you that for protection of the workers, don't misquote me. I support it to be on the exclusive list, so that we can have some kind of minimum around the country and protect workers. The only anomaly I point out is that how do you, I'm saying the federation, how do you now wake up one morning and see that there is a minimum wage around the country to say you must not give your wife a certain, lesser than a certain amount every month? Are you running my home for me? That's the meaning. That somebody, the Lagos State wakes up one morning and said, or Abuja FCT, Siristoba, you cannot give your wife less than this amount every month. You say in order to protect the women. It's an anomaly. But then, hey, let us find a way around it. I support it. Let's protect the workers. Let it be on the exclusive list so that no government, no state government will run riot and begin to pay what it likes.
So are you looking ahead? Because, as I said, the pressure is beginning to build with discussions going around. Are you looking ahead? Are you prepared that if for any reason this goes beyond this?
We will call them to the table again, Asiri. We are the ones that carry the problem. Minister of Labor. We will call them when this thing starts, because it does not concern us now. But we are looking at it. It's between the states and NLC and, of course, the National Assembly. But we must find a way to, because some states are in real dire straits. Let's look really at the problems of the states. Lagos cannot pay, or some states cannot pay the same amount Lagos pays. It's not possible. Some states are not viable. And the only industry in many of these states is the civil service. And we must agree that the civil service now has become like social welfare. Because many people they go to work, even at the state level, they're redundant. We have so many redundant workers.
Minister, but
they're just like social service.
Are you also aware that where you have one civil servant, that one civil servant probably has 12 dependents who have nothing else but to depend on the income of that one.
But that is why I said it is social service. You don't pay somebody in relation to the problem he has. You pay somebody in relation to to how useful that person is. But you can't look at the person's problem to pay him.
Okay, let's look at how all this is impacting on the nation generally. One of the biggest issues today is insecurity. On the 29th of April, organized labor, the Nigerian Labour Congress, put together its second summit on, peace and security. And many issues came out there. Issues that create the atmosphere for insecurity. Labor issues. Are we looking at those? And there are two things. Well, let's start by getting your views, and then we will refer you to one or two statements you made at that conference.
I can recall the statements. I'll make them here too. The rate of unemployment is directly proportional to the rate of insecurity. So that is very clear. So I must admit that unemployment fuels insecurity. So we must continue to address the issue of unemployment. So maybe I'm making a case here for more funding of our ministries to ensure that we create employment at the very lowest level. Like I talk about the Special Public Works Program, if I make it a yearly affair, it's going to help a lot to lift so many of these boys off the streets. Now, so I agree that one of the strategies to fight insecurity is unemployment. It is the youth. They are the youth that are unemployed that Boko Haram members are recruiting. The boys that have nothing to do. I have classmates back home, primary school classmates who I know are in prison now. They are in all kinds of jail because they got into trouble and all that because they did not perhaps continue to improve like themselves, like some of us did. So if they're unemployed, perhaps if I'm unemployed, I did not read as much, I should be back there too. I should be in one jail too, causing problem on the streets of Warri, But then, so I agree we need to address this problem of unemployment. It's linked to insecurity. Now, we are not giving excuses for the rate of insecurity. It is within the purview of government to tackle insecurity. Government is always saying that, look, we all must be involved. Help us, give us information. Let us, all of us, be part of this process. The moment insecurity is involved, then it is not a government problem. It's everybody's problem. And so it must cut across party lines. We must not play politics with insecurity. I see many people playing politics with insecurity. I was citing an example recently about the problem America faces all the time, which is mass shootings, gun control, and all of that. It is not a political issue. Everybody comes together across party lines to address this issue of the mass shooting all the time in America. So they won't say, oh, you won't hear Biden must resign because there has been a mass shooting. But what you hear, they hear. And then you hear at times that, oh, well, it is only so and so people they are shooting and all of that. And because of that, they want to burn the country and bring it down. Now, the point, therefore, we must make is that the situation is bad enough. Patriots must rise up at this time to speak truth to these boys, especially the ones who are trying to carve out ethnic enclaves for themselves and adding to an already very tense situation. People are putting ethnic spin around the insecurity issue, ethnic spin. And that is what we are appealing against. That we have enough problems on our hands, which is insecurity. Don't put an ethnic spin to it. And because when you put an ethnic spin to it, you are now, stirring up emotions again. And once emotions go along with this, you are going to have a conflagration. So we're appealing. Right. People should not do that. Now we need statesmen to rise up. We need professionals to rise up. We need everybody to rise up and be patriots. Patriots.
All right.
The point I made the other time.
Okay, yes, at that Labour conference,
Yes.
you stated that people were paying lip service. It would seem that people were paying lip service to United Nigeria and not doing enough. And if I recall correctly, you said patriotism should rise above professionalism.
Absolutely.
Right.
In fact, I was talking to the press.
Could you explain that?
I was talking to the press there.
Yes, could you explain that?
I was talking to the press. I said, at this point in time, the press should not give its platform to those who want Nigeria to burn, to those who are making this divisive and inciting statements. They may think that for them, they are hurting the government of the day. They are not. They are hurting the country. This government will be out in 2 years' time. So if you give your platform to people to make divisive statements about the country, you are no longer a patriot. So I said patriotism should come before even professionalism. The greatest professionals in broadcast industries around the world, They are seen in America and all those places. The champions of free speech. CNN, NBC, and the big networks. What happened? When the president of the United States, no less than the president of the United States, was calling for the country to burn and making false claims because he wanted the elections to be cancelled. And at that point, when he wanted to leave, he was calling out Americans to go and protest and burn down the capital, the legislative capital. What happened? The entire network blacked out the president. I'm talking of the major networks, all of them. The president of the United States was making a speech. They did not carry the speech. They did not even air it. And guess what? Social media blacked him out too. That is the highest form of patriotism you can see. But here is a different case. They'll be giving their platforms to people who are calling for the country to burn and to divide and to bring down the country. That is not patriotism. So even you say, oh, well, I'm just being professional. Patriotism must come before professionalism this time. And I cited the case of Asari Dokubo I did. I've seen all. So nobody can come and stand in front of me, Cyril, and tell me about human rights. I've seen everything. I have been at the deep range. I represented almost all the separatist groups in this country. I hope you know that. MASOB, Niger Delta Volunteers Force, the Niger Delta Avenge, I represented all of them in court. When Asari Dokubo was arrested, when he was calling for division at that time and all that, I was shouting Supreme Court. I was shouting, I didn't support the division, of course, let me be clear.
Right.
I was only talking about the right to self-determination. Now, I was shouting human rights to the Supreme Court. What did the Supreme Court tell me? To my face. I did that iconic case. They said, Mr. Keyamo, once national security is involved in the unity of this country, human rights take a second place. That is what the Supreme Court told me. I did that case. So who will come and stay in front of me? I represented all these groups.
All right.
So I know the pros and the cons. And the problem we see, Cyril, is that somebody somewhere has deceived perhaps the younger generation in Nigeria these days. They deceived them that freedom is absolute. Somebody has deceived them that freedom is absolute. And the people who told them that are people who perhaps they love to hate the government, to say, bring down the government. So do anything you like. The police cannot even touch you. That is what they have taught them. And that's why you see people trying to slap the police on the streets now. They're trying to hurt the police because somebody has told them somewhere, has misrepresented facts to them and law, that freedom is absolute.
Okay, so, but Minister, for the purposes of clarity, this is not to be, your stance is not to be confused with the question of facts being sacred.
Absolutely.
And comments free.
Absolutely.
We just wanted to clarify, clarify on that.
State the facts the way they are. But don't air opinions. Don't give your platform as platforms to promote opinions that are calling for the division of the country and for the country to burn down. Don't give your platform. Black out those kind of comments. But of course, the facts are the facts. And what are the facts? I'll give you an example. Do not also twist facts. They have been trying to say that the president supports an ethnic group. Oh, the president is promoting one ethnic group over the other and all of that. And I've said, why play down the statement of the president as far back as 2016, not now? And I want everybody to Google it right now. The president said they should shoot anybody with AK-47, arrest any header they see anywhere, anybody they see, arrest and prosecute. I went back in 2016. But the press we have, they will play down that statement and keep playing up the statements of some irresponsible people like governors who are always calling for division and pointing, making inciting comments against an ethnic group. They will play down the president's statement. Now, I'll tell you this. And I've told somebody one time, I said, do you know we have record of people who have been convicted? Headers who have been convicted, those who have kidnapped. Go there, it's there on the just go. You will see the list of them who have been convicted in Benue, in Ondo, the ones that went to Falai's farm, Olufalai's farm. They were sentenced to life imprisonment under this government. So what are you saying? And I said, give me a list. I challenged somebody recently, give me a list of anybody caught anywhere in the country that was released without prosecuting him because the government is behind that criminal. Give me one name. Till now, I told one journalist 2 weeks ago, he has not been able to give me the answer till now. I want a name and the place of the person. They say it's supporting, you are supporting. Supporting means that you are covering them up when they have done something. So give me the name of somebody who did something that was released. They have not provided it to now. So these are the narratives we are allowed to fester, and then people, you whip up emotions against the government of the day because these are people who lost at the polls.
Right. Minister, speaking of that, just about run out of time, but we must chip this in. You are a member of this government. You're a senior lawyer. You think there's been an unfair assessment of this administration?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Unfair, unjust, and wicked. And some of us will begin to speak out because the aim of many of people, and some of these people, especially those cowards who lost at the polls, who could not defeat the president at the polls, most of their major aim is to ensure that he leaves office on a low. And some of us are ensured that we are determined that he leaves office on a high. We are determined to let Nigerians know that some of these assessments are wicked, they are evil, and they are lies, and we will not keep quiet again.
Beyond that, addressing the situation and pulling, as some would say, getting to the precipice, pulling the nation, pulling the country back from the precipice. What can Nigerians look forward to? Very soon, we would have reached the midway mark of the second period of this administration. What should Nigerians look forward with all these challenges?
Well, the president is still focused. All of this happening, he's focused on what he's doing. Infrastructural development is going around the country, so expect that to continue. The president will not say he's depriving any part of the country of infrastructural development. Some people, in order to whip up sentiment, they will now everything they talk about is appointments. And if you go to the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, I challenge everybody to go there today, ask for a spreadsheet of appointments across board, service-wide appointments by this government. The South has more appointments than the North. Service-wide. So go there and get the sheets. People are not counting projects in regions. Can you see how low some people can think? Right. You will not sit down and be counting projects, what they are doing in different regions. You are counting appointments. Okay. But go and see the appointments too. They are spread across everywhere. Okay. And balanced also. So, but people don't care. Seriously, I just want to let you know, people don't care about projects. They care about where they will steal. They always think of juicy appointments.
Okay, well, we're just about done with the time allotment. So, Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Minister of State, Labour and Employment, it's been interesting talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Cyril.
Thank you. And that's our program today. We thank you for watching. Next week, we'll be back with One-on-One. I'm Cyril Stover. Continue to stay safe.